What is indisputable, as Dave says, there's no sign that Hamas has lost all its power. I mean, they're operating with power in Gaza right now. They're still heavily armed. They have said publicly, we are not going to disarm. So, you know, it seems to me that the original aim of releasing the hostages is one thing, but this idea that Israel has defeated Hamas is clearly not true. So where does that leave this ceasefire other than in a very precarious place? If Hamas just say, we are not disarming, what does Israel do?
First of all, Pierce, I want to speak to some of the things that Dave just said. When it comes to the fog of war, Dave, I hear that you're saying anytime it's Hamas directly targeting Israeli soldiers, directly targeting civilians, it's the fog of war. You're saying that's the fog of war. But when it comes to Israel targeting Hamas, you still refuse to accept the basic principle. There was no Wannsee conference here. Israel's not committing genocide. There's no ethnic cleansing because they're Gazans. We have one goal, Dave, one simple goal: to destroy Hamas and bring home our hostages. And all of a sudden, it's not the fog of war, Dave. It is your fog. You're unwilling to understand the most basic principle here, that there's probably never been a more moral war fought by an army that does not want to go to war. What's the proof? It's exactly what you're saying. As soon as we got the hostages home, as soon as President Trump put a deal on the table, it's not a perfect deal. What was the very first thing we did? We withdrew exactly to the yellow border. We exactly gave time for Hamas to return the 20 living hostages and the 29 bodies. One second, Dave. One second. I let you speak.
Over dead
one second,
remains.
Dave. I did let you speak.
Most moral army.
Just give me
sorry.
one.
Go ahead. I think that it happens quite often in American history where their presidents kind of go all in on some type of a peace deal, not a peace deal in this case, but a ceasefire. Obviously, this is it's very important to Donald Trump's political legacy and political capital that this works. And what ends up happening is, once there's signs that it's not working, it's much easier to publicly blame the Palestinians than it is to publicly blame the Israelis. There's just much less of a political price tag. Gaza does not have a lobby and a bunch of billionaires and a bunch of influence in our country, and Israel does. And I'm sorry, but anyone can go listen to for themselves to the 60 Minutes interview with Jared Kushner and with Witkoff. Again, these are two representatives of the most pro-Israel government in the history of the United States of America, and they are both saying Israel was out of control. Israel had to be brought to the table. Israel was doing things that weren't in their long-term interests, says Jared Kushner. Yeah. And they both also said a very interesting detail, that all of the intelligence that they were getting was saying that Hamas didn't want to do a deal, but as soon as they approached them with this deal, Hamas was very enthusiastic about getting it done. And by the way, that is very consistent with reporting that's been done by Jeremy Scahill and Ryan Grimm. You know, like some of these journalists who actually do talk with the leadership of Hamas. Now, Pierce, to the point that was made before, I'm sorry, you've been interviewing me on this show for 2 years now or something like that. You've had me on a bunch of times. I mean, just tell me, to any normal person, have I ever seemed like I'm sympathetic to Hamas?
No.
Or that I'm saying that they don't have the responsibility they have? I've come on, I've chastised other critics of Israel on this show before, because I think it's goofy when people do that. You know, to sit here and then turn around and talk about how evil Hamas is and use them as the justification for why you are somehow allowed to just destroy a captive people that don't have a military of their own to defend themselves. It's just, look, I'll just say this. There was one poll recently that had, they said right before October 7th, in America, do you sympathize with Israel or Palestine, was plus 48 for Israel. And then the latest poll, it was +1 for the Palestinians. You would be hard pressed to find a 50-point collapse in any issue. Like, just imagine, Pierce, if we woke up tomorrow and 90% of America was pro-life. We'd be like, what happened here? I mean, and the reason why this shift is happening is very simply because what Israel's doing to the Palestinians is so indefensible. The relationship between Israel and the United States of America is too bizarre, and it does not make sense in America's interest. And number three, this type of propaganda just doesn't work on people. You can't sit here and say you're the most moral army in the world as a response to my point that you just denied food to an entire civilian population because you claim Hamas is slow-rolling dead remains. I'm not saying dead remains don't matter, but we're talking about real, alive babies, children, women, who just went through this nightmare for 2 years, and you are denying collectively punishing, denying the civilian population aid over a Hamas, something that maybe Hamas did, and you think you're the most moral army in the world?
Look, on this,
Dave,
well, listen,